Hi, and welcome to Slew's latest Clubhouse clip. I'm Eric Edelman, the producer here at Slew, broadcasting to you live from Smoky Hollow Studios at Slew HQ in Washington Depot, Connecticut. But as we have been for the last few shows, we're going to go across the ocean over to the Canary Islands to view through the telescopes a very, very intriguing object that we are currently striving toward as of late with machine, with man, with science. We are going further than we've gone in the solar system to look at a very particularly fun object. This is going to be Pluto live today from the Canary Island scopes. And I'm going to be joined today by slew astronomer Will Gator, who's been keeping up and up on the news and really knows about the stuff that we're uh, really interested in when it comes to Pluto here. So thank you for joining me here, Will.
Hi, Eric. It's good to be here.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And even though it's daytime in the Canaries, we're going to be pulling off a miracle and totally going to see through the night. Right? I mean, it seems like it's daytime at least by that image.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, that moon is really lighting up the sky.
That's what it is. That huge giant ball of light. That's the moon. And so normally the Canary Islands all sky it's gorgeous. We can see the Milky Way and all the constellations. But tonight, since the moon is so close to full, that's getting a little in the way. But that's not going to stop us here from going far out to our friendly neighborhood dwarf planet. What it is going to do is it's going to provide a very interesting experience when we view it. There's going to be a little bit of a light show when it comes to what we see. I suppose without any further ado, we can go to the live images that just is coming out of the Canary Islands right now of Pluto. And here we are, like that light gradient. It's so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting picture, isn't it? Actually, because we were looking at where would you say Pluto is in that picture? This I think is the fun of observing this planet, or maybe fun is perhaps the wrong word. The challenge, the sort of chase of trying to find Pluto amongst it. This is what Clyde Tombaugh, when he tried to discover this planet out there in the distant reaches of the solar system. This is what he faced, basically looking out into the solar system, trying to find this little tiny dot. I mean, they didn't know quite how big the object there was they were looking for when they were originally hunting back in the 1930s, the beginning of the 1930s. But where is it? Well, Eric, do you know where it is? Can you see it in this picture? I can see
It's
it.
it's really quite a needle in the haystack. I believe isn't this what we're supposed to be looking at tonight? Is it right
Yeah,
there?
I'm pretty
Uh,
sure that's Pluto right there. And in fact, the way to check would be as if we came back tomorrow night, or maybe some of our slew members who are imaging tonight, maybe if they took a picture tomorrow night, maybe the next couple of nights, and you move them together, you compared those views, then you'd see Pluto moving against that background star field. And that's exactly how Clyde Tombaugh did it in 1930. He used a piece of apparatus called a blink comparator. Of course, he didn't have the amazing telescopes and the sort of digital cameras, the CCDs that we have today, and SLU's telescopes in the Canary Islands, but he had a very sort of simple piece of apparatus essentially that just flicked back and forth, showing the view of the same star field over consecutive nights or different nights. And indeed, there in that image, a little dot was moving, and that dot it turned out to be Pluto.
And it's there's some amazing work that our SLU members have put together in the clubhouse with this dwarf planet, seeing it move across star fields. Like that's it's really where Pluto comes to life because it's so um, it isn't like we've seen Saturn just a little while back in opposition, and seeing so much detail, seeing the rings, seeing gaps between rings, and seeing different shades on the planet itself. But here
Mm.
in the sky in with Pluto here, we don't really get that detail, except we are sort of heading toward that direction, aren't we? With a couple of interesting missions happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the hugely exciting thing. I mean, these images, as astronomers, I don't know what our SLU viewers, our SLU members think, but I always think that this is one of the most exciting things we can do as amateur astronomers because with SLU's telescopes, even in your back garden with a good telescope, you can go and take these pictures and see this region that is right at the very edges of the solar system, and it really is an unexplored region. As you say, Eric, there is a mission on its way to Pluto, and it's going to fly very close to Pluto, and really we're going to get views that really we've never even had of this region. I mean, we've had very, very distant views of Pluto with the Hubble Space Telescope, but even with Hubble's incredible optics in orbit around the Earth, it only really looks like this sort of very sort of smudgy patches of different colors, different brightnesses on the disk of Pluto. And already the New Horizons mission, which is the mission that NASA is sending out, has been returning pictures that, well, it's just remarkable, really. This is the first color picture from New Horizons, and this showed basically Pluto and its moon Charon. So that's the first color picture, but already we're getting even more and more detailed images. We're starting to see what astronomers call albedo features, these dark and light shaded regions on Pluto, and these pictures you can see. Look at the distances here. The one on the right, 75 million kilometers, and this is why Pluto is such a challenging object to observe, and why it hasn't been explored up to this point. It's a really exciting sort of. It's like we're really standing on a sort of threshold of some really interesting new science.
I'm really looking forward to this new flyby that's going to happen of New Horizons by Pluto. Just what will we see at that point in time? And speaking of what we'll see tonight, uh, we're looking live, and here is the color image coming in as we process these in real time. This is what the color of this star field is looking like that we showed you earlier, and here the cursor is pointing toward where Pluto is in this star field, and it the color really makes this light gradient sort of all the more fascinating, I think, really.
Yes, the lovely golden hue of the moon. Actually, I can see it just outside my window. It's gonna set shortly, I reckon.
It's really incredible, and yeah, this moon. You can see how much of an influence it carries, and what a difference it makes that it's so close, and that Pluto is so far away, and so appearing so insignificant there. But as
Mm.
we're going closer and closer to Pluto, we're discovering so many things, not just about the planet itself, but about the moons as well. Like you were just mentioning Charon, and recently, sort of in the news, particularly the moon Nix was making quite a smash. Like we have a image here coming in from NASA of just sort of how intriguing it is. Like what exactly is going on here?
So one thing we should be very clear on here that what you're looking at here is a kind of an artist's impression of what we think this moon is shaped like. Now, I I always think that we should take these sort of artist impression with a big pinch of salt, because I don't know if you remember what the shape models of the Rosetta comet looked like long before we actually visited. It was supposed to look like a round ball. Well, if you've been following the Rosetta mission and any of the shows we've done on that particular mission, you'll know that Comet Churyumov-Gerasimenko is incredibly weird. It's got two lobes and things. So basically, the point is that this is an artist's impression, but the moons of Pluto are very interesting. So there's a news story out this afternoon that basically it turns out that two of the moons are in a sort of almost sort of chaotically tumbling around Pluto. And when we're talking about the moons of Pluto, what we're actually talking about is a bit of a crazy system actually, because if we take just Pluto and Charon, its largest moon, Charon is about half the size of Pluto. And yet it's not like our Earth Moon system. With our Earth Moon system, the moon is actually going around the Earth. Their common center of gravity is still within the Earth. It's not quite at the Earth's center, but the common center of gravity of the Earth and the moon is actually still within the Earth. That's not the case for Pluto and Charon. So Pluto and Charon, they orbit around a common center of gravity that is actually between the two of them, and so what we call a barycenter. And so you get this sort of strange wobbling effect between Charon and Pluto. And then the other moons, Nix and Hydra particularly, they are really, it seems from these new studies, going all over the place. So very, very strange system. And in fact, this particular system, the way it's arranged in this sort of crazy sort of tumbling, that might speak to something about the formation history of this particular system. Maybe these moons, maybe they were somehow broken off in some collision, or maybe they formed as the sort of impact detritus, as it were, from a great collision that formed this Pluto system. So this is all stuff that we're going to learn about in the coming weeks and months, because New Horizons is going to fly past. We're going to see, detail on the surface of Pluto. This is the really exciting thing. For the first time, we're actually going to see Pluto's surface up close, because we've had probes that have gone to all the other planets. We've even had dwarf planet Ceres, as we've covered, I know, on lots of our live slew shows. And yet Pluto is that one last real sort of outpost in the solar system that we haven't had a good look at up close. So really exciting moment. We should be getting images in the coming weeks and months with something like a kilometer resolution. So that's going to be really incredible to see.
Absolutely. And uh, what you were mentioning a bit about formation scenarios, and another thing they were talking about, sort of in an earlier press release, I think that was today, was about how sort of Cerberus, the moon Cerberus, was interesting in its own way in terms of how its surface was looking as we're getting closer and closer toward it. Wasn't that right?
Yeah, it appears Cerberus is actually quite dark. It's all of these bodies, all the small bodies in the solar system. They often the colors of their surface can tell you something about the composition. So when we look at them through instruments, we can learn something. And one of the classic thing is bright objects. If you think of a very bright object, something very white, for example, like Enceladus, Saturn's moon, that is white, very bright because it's rich in ice, and we think there are probably ices of some sort on Pluto and probably most of its moons. But Cerberus, strange, as you can see here, 19 miles across, and yet it appears to be quite dark. So it'll be really interesting to see actually, once New Horizons instruments start looking at it, why is that? I mean, is there some material being deposited on the surface? Is there something going on maybe in the Pluto system that is causing that darkening? Or maybe there's a compositional difference, and this is something of a surprise. So a really interesting discovery, and as I said before, it's all tantalizing really, because we're going to get this very close approach and get to see some of these moons up close, and who knows what's causing that. Maybe very, very interesting.
There's really I can't wait to see sort of what sort of science and up close imagery that we get from this close flyby. And for
Mm.
you, Will, is there anything in particular that you'd be curious about that you'd like to see from this New Horizons flyby? Just
I
only
can't.
months away.
I c Yeah, I mean, very soon we're going to get images which surpass the resolution of the Hubble images, which is very exciting. But what I'm really looking forward to are those sort of global maps, those kilometer resolution pictures, because I want to see that surface. Look at these images. You can see there are clear bright and dark spots. And I think you can actually see in some of them. Yeah, look at that. Look how they, as presumably Pluto rotates, you see these changing in position. I really want to see what's going on down there on the surface because there's some thoughts that maybe Pluto is very similar to Neptune's moon Triton, and on Triton the pictures we got from the Voyager space probes. Here you go, beautiful picture. Those black sort of smudges in the bottom, they are thought to be geysers. Now, I really want to see if there's any similar activity on Pluto, because how cool would that be to think that, Pluto is this, even out there in the very edge of the solar system, we've got this sort of dynamic, active world, and, who knows what we might find there. I want to see one of the things that happens with Pluto is when it gets near to the sun, its whole atmosphere essentially sort of generates, the ices on its surface begin to sublimate, and you get this sort of temporary atmosphere around Pluto. Very, very thin, nothing like on Earth. But I want to see if we can understand a little bit more about that process because I just think it's such an exciting time, and I really do feel as if it feels like there's that sort of night before Christmas, when you sort of I don't want to wait anymore. I'm bored of waiting. I'm going to sneak downstairs and hope that the pictures are coming.
So it's literally going to be, I suppose, Christmas in July then, because we're gonna
Yeah,
get it at
certainly for
the
astronomers.
New Horizons for July. Uh, but yeah, this is Pluto is just such a really a fascinating object, and we're just going to keep learning more and more about it. It's always such a fun thing in astronomy to explore a new frontier that we haven't been um, going toward before, and this is going to provide us with just a wealth of new information to digest and just learn about. And as SLU Clubhouse members, perhaps you're interested in what we've done with Pluto, what the members have done. And I mean, an easy way to do that is go to the handy dandy search bar, just type in Pluto, see what you get, because there's lots of stuff to really be looked at. Here's like we were talking about earlier on, Pluto time lapses, people that are seeing how Pluto moves against the background star. So you can contribute to the time lapses. Oh, here's a first try at a time lapse. And so, yeah, there's lots that you can do if you're looking with the scopes and you want to try and image Pluto yourself. Like, oh, here you see it right here.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
It's time lapse. And yeah, you can also spy on what the other members are doing. And this is someone's first try. That's so great. So there's lots of potential to be had. Lots of fun for Pluto. And of course, we cannot forget. Well, this is we're looking at the dwarf planet here. There's some friendly neighborhood planets that are going to be having a lot of fun. A little bit on in this month, where we're going to be looking at Uranus as it is photobombed by the moon. That's going to be happening in just a week. And we also are going to be celebrating the end of the season of Jupiter's mutual events when the moons are occulting and eclipsing in our view with a great show on the 16th of Io, both occulting and eclipsing Europa. So stay tuned for those and many more shows abound that we're going to be showing you as this month goes on. And so please do not hesitate to send us suggestions if there's an object that you're really interested in. We'd love to talk about it. And of course, send us your questions about upcoming shows because we love to talk about what you'd like to hear about. So that's always something that we enjoy doing. And sort of as we're wrapping up here, though, Will, any sort of last thoughts on Pluto, how far we've come, what we can expect?
Yeah, I think that image that you have on screen kind of sums up exactly where we've been for, well, ever since the discovery of Pluto, really. It's always been this tiny little dot in our images, even now in the best images from New Horizons, okay, it may be a few tens of pixels, but in the coming weeks, that little dot is going to turn into, this dwarf planet, and we're going to see that surface, and we're going to learn about it. And so, to me, that's going to be the most exciting thing. That suddenly that dot becomes real, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, a whole new perspective. I mean, they
Mm,
they aptly named it a New Horizon, and
mm.
we'll look forward to seeing really what the horizon brings for Pluto. Uh, but for now, this has been Eric and Will for SLU. We'll see you next time.